If you all can hear me at the station, I can't hear any sound.
You can't hear us on there?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay. Well, if the sword is Son Man, do you think you can you restart?
Well,
Getting you clear.
I can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hang up and call right back?
Oh, yes, Lord.
Okay.
Okay.
Family and friends and citizens all across the United States, where we know that the storms are forecasted to hit. Just be safe. Make safe decisions. If you don't have to go out, don't. If something's happening and you need to take deeper shelter,
this service is provided by access code accepted. There are 3 participants in this conference. This conference is being recorded.
this Friday, we're going to continue the conversation about legacy. I know that a lot of you yesterday, I got some phone calls, and I don't think that you all were too happy with me. It's so funny, I tell you all, we're family. That's how I look at it. So off the air, what you can say to me on the air. If you don't like the conversation, that's okay. Call in and say it so we can discuss it. What do we say here? There's more than one way to have a conversation. Our ultimate goal is to educate, enlighten, and
there is 1 host and 3 participants in this conference.
Which room is that?
That's the high def.
Well, you said you didn't see me in there.
You weren't in there at first, you just came in.
This service is provided by access code accepted. There are 3 participants in this conference. This conference is being recorded.
Okay, you see me in both now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Colette?
continue with the conversation as we prepare to bring them in. Yesterday, again, we talked about legacy. And I wanted you all to take it from the perspective of the honor to life of Dick Gregory. We gave a clip that talks about his activism, how he was able to use his comedy to capture a conversation and then change the narrative. And when I say change, he honored what was happening to people of color. You all saw the clip on the Tonight Show. He, made it out of a joke. But what did he say? You all better be nice to me because now with JFK as president, I might be your neighbor. He spoke to a lot of the truths that were happening to people of color at that time, with segregation, with integration, with civil rights, with education, with nutrition, everything that we still are addressing today. We shared, I didn't know that Dick Gregory had run for president of the United States. And I bet now in hindsight, everyone always says that hindsight is 20/20, but in the hindsight, we would have looked at it a lot differently since Richard Nixon won that election, and we are very clear about what happened with Richard Nixon. But it's all about legacy. And so in the clip that I shared yesterday, you all saw he talked about his wife. They had been married since 1957. and his 10 children. And his daughter, who was the oldest at the end, who was a professor, she said, this is how we were brought up. And so we don't know any other way. And that there isn't any other way to be. And so I asked you yesterday, do you think about that? Do you think about those of us who are put up to either by individuals or self-ordained to take on a cause, to take on a mantra that makes us better as a community? That is the charge. And then when that person transitions from this physical life, who steps in the gap? We talk about it historically. We talk about the life of Malcolm, the life of Martin, the life of Medgar. I can go on. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We talk about the life of, we can just name the lives of. And then I asked, where were we afterwards? Where are the people that were either trained by those individuals to stand in their place and alongside their honor and spirit and the energy that they created? I addressed us just being on this wonderful platform, WHPR TV 33, that is because of the hard work and the legacy of the team and the leadership of R.J. Watkins that we are standing on those shoulders and the opportunity to have the conversations today. But maybe we'll miss it when it's not here. But you're so eloquent in talking about what our forefathers and foremothers did, but then we don't take the charge now. We don't take the charge to say, I want to do that work. But I'm asking you, is that important to you? Maybe it's not. At the end of the day, every year, Black History Month, we have the same people that we honor. And then it seems like we just stop. Even in our families, it's the same people that we talk about, but we don't continue that same tradition. And I shared yesterday, legacy, there's a lot of different things. People attach it to assets. They attach it to wealth. I attach it to intellect, to experience, to an understanding and a knowledge that is given to you to make your life better. But a lot of times, maybe when the ego steps in, we don't want to pass on that knowledge. We don't want to pass on that greatness to someone else to continue the torch. Because I share with you, I even gave a political position. I said, well, we can look at some elected officials that we know that are people of color who haven't passed on. And I asked you, if you knew of someone different, tell me. If you knew who Congressman Conyers has ordained to, under his tutelage, to take on his position as the longest sitting dean in congressional history, who he has knighted and has been teaching along the way, so that when his time of service is up, that other person is trained to be able to present the same ideology and plan of action to be able to benefit this community. I asked you all that. I asked you that on the wakes of Coleman Alexander Young, the mayor of the great city of Detroit. Then outside of him, who else was trained? Now we have his son that's running for the office of mayor. And so many people still don't support that position. And if you don't, that's fine. You need to be able to explain why. I shared with you all yesterday that I was not going to be in a space where there was a person for higher office that I could vote for that was a person of color, as in our President Barack Hussein Obama, and not vote for him. I got some pushback. You all said, well, Colette, he didn't do this and he didn't do that. And I thought it was so interesting how we are so eloquent in talking about all the things that Black folk don't do for Black folk, but we never hold the other folk accountable for what you say they're supposed to do for us. But we will go fighting mad, tooth and nail against someone who looks like us if they don't do the slightest bit of what we expect, even though we don't have an action plan. And then when they present an action plan to us, we fight them because then we want to critique their action plan when there was no plan. And so it's the dog chasing the tail, because then we still have no legacy. It was their legacy. We have no legacy. And I had a conversation, and Brother Tyrone called in today and said, well, the truth is we just can't, we have never been a we, so we could never do it because we are not a we. And I venture to say that we know how to be we, because we worked together when we picked cotton. We worked together when we built the White House. We work together when we're on the assembly line. We know how to do the work for everybody else, but when it comes to us and what we're supposed to do for each other under the leadership of someone that looks like us, We don't do so well. And I know that you all don't like to hear that. And so I presented it to you. Well, you tell me how's it any different? You tell me that you're doing something different, and so you see the outcomes of it. If you don't even want to make it personal because we don't have an action plan for ourselves, then I'm going to ask you just to go for Detroit as a whole. Go for your community as a whole. So what is the legacy of Detroit now? So if we want to just make this generalization, do you even think about that? If you don't want to make it personal, if you don't want to say what I'm doing for myself and my family, if you don't want to do that, if we haven't had enough examples of things that we have learned and how we can either do the same thing, critique what was done. I talk about protest without policy, and my position is a moot point. We can protest all day, but if you don't attach it to some type of legislation that then can be pushed and lobbied to create a viable outcome, I don't know what we expect other than to protest. But that's my position, and that's my assessment from the legacy that I have seen, from the marches, from the civil rights movement. My assessment then becomes it has to be more to do more. And so that's what I put out there yesterday, and I couldn't wait for Son of Man this morning because I wanted to get his insight. Because, I'm going to take it over to the religious aspect as well. Because so many of us, no matter who you say you are, however you identify yourself, if it's a Muslim, if it's a Christian, if it's a Buddhist, whoever, and whatever that looks like for you, are you walking in the truths of the messenger that you say that you follow? The message from the Bible, the message from the Holy Quran. Do you follow in that? So even if you didn't, you know what? I can't even say that because that doesn't even go together. I can't say if you didn't respect the person who's giving the message but you follow the Bible, that doesn't even go together. Because I should respect you. If I follow the word that says I should respect a human being, that I should work to listen, that you should love people, that I shouldn't have the conflict and the chaos that I see, that we see. Even that we see on these airwaves. I tell you all the time, you don't have to, again, agree with Son of Man, and I'm not here to have to wave Son of Man's flag. He can do that on his own. I'm going to bring him in. He does that quite well. But it's just in truth. And so we get mad, again, we get mad. We don't want to get better. So I'm asking. Now, Son of Man, are you there? Great morning to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Good morning. Wa alaikum assalam. I want to say to every one of you that's listening who hunger and thirst for the truth of righteousness, may Allah assalamu alaikum to you. I was listening to so much. There's so many subjects that you brought up. One of the reasons that when I was growing up, I didn't really follow Mr. Gregory on none of them. But what got me was Dr. Cosby, Bill Cosby. For the first time, I saw a black man in a role that you just didn't see black men play. It was dignified. It was called I Spy, and he had a role that you just didn't see black men playing. He was even beating up white people, and doing karate and all that kind of stuff. And I used to rush home to look at I Spy, and then come to find out he was not just a joker, but he always, even his jokes were clean. And then sometime you can go online, you can see where he used to talk about black history and that kind of thing. And so I developed a respect for him because he made me feel proud that I was black. He helped to put the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I didn't realize that that's where it came from, but he hung out with Muhammad Ali a lot. Dr. Cosby did, and so I never forgot that. You don't forget when people do. At least I don't. I don't forget people who do good for me, who I feel cared about me, and they showed it. It's like Mr. Watkins, you know. I mean, how many stations did I go on and people tried to get me to tone down what I say? In other words, they want me to pay for airtime and then want to dictate to me what I can and cannot say, even though what I was saying was the truth. And so, you know, Mr. Watkins restored my faith in the media. Because he never tried to tell me what I could. He never even hinted to me. Look, you need to tone this down, or I'm losing business or whatnot. And people had been threatening him. And he simply told them, you know, I asked him about it. He said, well, I told them, you know, you offered them $20,000 and your life if they could show that you was teaching something other than the truth. And he told them that and as long as I wasn't violating FCC rules or whatnot, he was not going to try to dictate to me what to say on the air. That's against the Constitution. You can't be censoring people on the air, you know, picking and choosing who you will let say something on the public airwaves. And so, you know, so I never forgot that. I never just articulated it to him in that way at the time, but, you know, I never forgot that he lived up to what the law says that you're supposed to do. And very few people that are willing to live up to the law, if that law make them have to put up with something that they don't want to put up with, you see. And so, you know, just like what you said about President Obama, you know, black people rejoiced to get him in there. And then after he got in there, they tried to hold him to a different set of standards than they held all of the white presidents. When President Obama, they wanted him to become an activist in the office of President of the United States. Well, you're seeing what happens when a president decides that he only going to represent certain parts of the country. We experienced that with white people. And now you're getting a real taste of it with the current president, Donald Trump. He don't even care about everybody else. He cares about those who voted for him. And even right now, he's going around the country reinventing what he ran in office for, telling people that he's going to build the wall or the debt, he's going to crash the good faith credit of the U.S. And so that's not what he said when he went in office. He said he was going to make Mexico pay for the wall. Now he's going to make the American people pay for the wall. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that when these hurricanes and stuff get through tearing up everything. You're going to need every billion that you got. You're going to need it to rebuild Texas and other places. You're talking about a wall. It's a wall of water coming at you. A wall of hurricanes coming at you. A wall of tornadoes coming at you. Let's see how you do with your Katrina. Anyway, you know, this is the day of judgment. This is the day I say to my people, don't be afraid. You know, I'm telling you, stop fearing white people. You know, the reason we could work in the cotton field, the reason we could build the presidential mansion, the reason we could do all of that for white people is because we feared white people, and they forced us to labor for them. Then even after we got through laboring for them, our mothers be there scrubbing their floors all day and raising their children. And when they got home, they were so dead tired that they couldn't do nothing for their own house and didn't even care about their own house. Even right now, most of us go out to a job working in a factory for white people and get home and too tired to cut our own lawn, too wore out. We are patching other people's houses up, working in carpentry, and come home to a rundown, tore up community and too tired to build up our own. Well, it's time now for us to go for ourselves. And if you give me a chance, I will show you it's easy. But this old slave mentality of ours, and it goes so deep that I'm gonna capsulize it for you. The school system that was set up for white people, by white people, to perpetuate white people. And naturally, when we send our children to the school system, our children come out black on the outside and white on the inside, which means we gravitate to white people and we push black people away. That's why we got that old saying when I was growing up, a nigga can't tell me nothing. Well, that's a white man talking. I didn't have sense enough to know it when I said that. But that's the white man's mentality. That's what I'm saying. Understand something. We only use skin color to identify where the source of that mind is, and who passed it on to us. It's not that white skin makes him evil. White skin don't make nobody evil. The mind that's in the skin is what's doing the dictating. So I understand that now. I don't see as a child anymore. I see as an adult. And that's what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted me to do. He said, now look, if you can walk out of what I'm teaching, he said, you will be able to make steps on your own. Now, at the time he said that, I wasn't in the nation. And he told all of them that was there. He said, but I don't think you'll be able to walk out of what I'm teaching. But when I showed up, and after he wasn't here no more, they let me hear all of those theology of time tapes. And, you know, they putting them up for sale and everything now because they didn't pay him no attention. It's just like the question you asked about who was to come after him, that, you know, about legacies, how people talk about, you know, well, who did this one prepare and who did that one prepare? Well, let me let you hear what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said was coming after him.
And the light of the truth must shine so clear that you cannot claim there was a cause between you and it. This is the little boy that is talking to you now. There is nobody coming behind me but God. I gotta tell you that. There is nobody coming behind me but God. I gotta tell you that. There is nobody coming behind me but God. I gotta tell you that.
As he said, there's nobody coming behind me but God. What is that to say? There's nobody coming behind me but the one that the word agrees with. Remember, the book says in the beginning was the word, and the word was with somebody. It said the word was with God. He called the one that the word was with, that the word agreed with, and the one that brought the word. He called him God. That's what God means. These people, the white man done taught you a lie about who is God and what God is. He taught you everything contrary to what the truth is. And it wouldn't do any good if I told you this behind his back. But I'm not telling you this behind his back. I'm saying this right in front of his face. And you see he shut his mouth at me. And so I want you, black brother and sister, to know that all of those who, I don't care what you did in the past. I don't care, even those who was in the nation, you wasn't me. So I understand now that you couldn't have understood the messenger like I understood him, because all understanding and all knowledge of understanding is in the head. The body only can feel. The body can't see. The head sees for the body. And so I forgive all of y'all. I don't care what you done did. I don't care what you said to me. You are forgiven. We need to get together and pool our resources, just like what you pool your resources every day in your body. You notice we all got up this morning and every member of the body helped us get dressed. Every member of the body walked us to the door and walked us to the car and helped us drive the car. Every member was acting as one. And that's what we got to do. We have to throw off the yoke that white people put on us, that yoke of false knowledge, that yoke that makes us look at each other as enemies. While the true enemy, we don't even, we see it every day in the mirror and we don't even recognize. We have eyes, but we don't see the true enemy that we carrying around right there in our brain. We go to the school system of these people who enslaved us. And then we wonder why wherever you go in America, you always find black people in a poverty-stricken condition and their resources being strip-mined. You know what I mean by strip-mined? I mean is people come to our community that don't look like us. The white man bring them in here and set them up in business. And they hear me talking. Any of them that say I'm lying, you let them come in here and tell me I'm lying. He bring them in here because he do business in their country. So he fix it where we are totally dependent. Even when we was working for him, he made sure that he didn't give us any knowledge of how to take our funds and put them together and support each other and find the smart ones among us and put them in business. They go in business and then our community go and support them. No, he put in us, I ain't gonna make that nigga rich. And I proved it to you when I said, let's make millionaires. And I said, just sign up for it. I didn't take up no money. I just said, all of you who are willing to do that, let's just go to the website and sign up for it. Out of all of the hundreds of thousands of black people in Detroit, you know how many signed up? 300. Why? Because in your mind, you still don't want to see a black man with nothing because the white man don't want to see black people with nothing. And you got the white man's mind. Now, if you want to know what you need to overcome, you used to sing that song, we shall overcome, we shall overcome. Well, nobody never told you what you needed to overcome. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have to overcome the mind that we received from white people. And the only way you're going to overcome it is, and you can call it ego tripping all you want, but I'm not on no ego trip. The mind that's in me has overcome. And I can share this mind with you, and you will be free of the white man's slavery. Because now you're enslaved with chains of darkness, chains of knowledge. Just like the first grade is linked into the second grade, and the second grade linked into the third, and all the way up through high school. And that's what's holding us now. We holding ourselves because of the chains of darkness, ignorance, learned ignorance that we got from listening to our slave masters teach us. So it's a lot of things that I want to say. I know, Miss Ramsey, you want to probably go to your phone lines or whatnot.
I apologize. You guys called back. We had the lines were lit and we got into the conversation. It was always important to allow Son of Man to get his full thoughts, at least for the onset of our subject matter. So you guys call back. I'll make sure I'll get you back on the line. So while they're preparing to do that, Son of Man, let me ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's really interesting when we made the reference of the 300 individuals that signed up for the opportunity that you presented to be millionaires. Here's a plan to be a millionaire. I thought about the conversations of So many of us, we have more than 300 residents who work in the factories. And when the buyout was going on in the factories where the bailout, not the buyout, well, we have a buyout situation as well, but the bailout in the factory, 2 factories here that were bailed out, folks, I would let somebody call in here and you tell me how many people actually bought stock, that actually worked for the auto industry and actually bought that stock. I want you to say, and you all can bet, I'll figure it out and find out what the answer is, that we didn't even buy stock. You all worked for the company that you could have gotten the stock at, what was it, start off at 12 cents or some ridiculous number that you could have never bought stock for at that price. And you worked for the company, and I bet you didn't even buy the stock. I promise you didn't. But when they offered you a bailout, and they offered you $100,000 or $60,000 because you all figured that was going to be your legacy, so the bailout was going to be your legacy, but the stock in the company that you worked in blood and sweat and tears for 20, 30 years, that wouldn't be your legacy because you didn't do that. But you take the the $50,000, $60,000 bailout and then say you're going to be an entrepreneur. I always think that's so interesting because I know several people who took the bailout and then they jumped into this entrepreneurial ship. And so my thing is, if you've never been an entrepreneur, you've never had any training to be an entrepreneur, then you take this money, how do you think that's going to work for you? Do you think that all of a sudden you're just going to be equipped then to say, I'm going to be this entrepreneur and I'm just going to be successful because I think I can without even having a plan to do it? And then there's so many people that now have spent the bailout money, their buyout money, they spent the buyout money, and now they're back looking for a job. How does that work? So, I need to understand, you had the legacy, you have the examples. We have the examples, but we just refuse to listen. So maybe the truth is, Son of Man's point, my question is that we really don't want to overcome. Because if we overcome, there's a level of responsibility that really we have to have. And so that puts the ownership on us. That takes the ownership off of everyone else. So now I can't blame you anymore. So, Son of Man, if I listen to you, I can't blame you and fight with you and talk about what you're saying is wrong. I can't do that every day because it will be no need. So if I just work with you to work towards being successful, there would be no need to have this other conversation. But I think it's too much, Son of Man.
Well, remember,
I think we were trained to believe that we can't overcome. And those of us who have been in that forefront are the ones who constantly fight to show that we're oppressed, but there's no way out of the oppression as presented.
well, remember, you don't overcome anything that you don't realize that you need to overcome. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling everybody. We didn't know we needed to overcome anything. We didn't know what it was we needed to overcome. We thought we needed to overcome sitting on the back of the bus. We thought we needed to overcome sitting up at white people's lunch counter. We thought we needed to overcome equal jobs and all of that. That's not what we was busy thinking with white people's mind. And everything that white people wanted, that's what we wanted. And that's stay
right there. Stay right there, please. Did you all just get that? Did you hear what the other man said? And call it, I see I'm about to go to you. Everything that the white man wanted is what we want. And today it's what we want. And I will dare you to call in and say different. Because we do everything the way that Detroit is a prime example of it. How 10, 15 years ago, no one wanted to invest in Detroit. We, those who had means, went out to the suburbs. We wanted to buy that $250,000 house, that $300,000 house. There was a fabricated home on not even half a piece of acre of land, but with high taxes. But we wanted that title. We live out in West Bloomfield. We live out in Farmington. That was sexy to us. We took pride in saying that. And all the while, those with means were moving in the city. They were moving those historic districts. They were moving in the areas that had the levels of affluence that we just didn't put a value. When you can take any other housing stock in Detroit right now and you put it against the suburbs, and it's no comparison. If you took these same houses that you paid $100,000 for and put them out in the suburbs, they're $300,000-$400,000. The quality, the craftsmanship of the home. But we didn't have a value in that because we wanted to do what they did. And so now, when they're back downtown and everything is great and it's how they see Detroit, and now we want to move back downtown. You all saw the newspaper article the other day, and I'm going to go to the line. We saw the newspaper article that the Queen, Aretha Franklin, is ready to come back home. And when I read the article, I said, well, wow, I didn't know. Well, where did she move? Where is she in California? Where is she? Well, no, she lives out in Bloomfield Hills. And so now she's ready to come back to Detroit. She said she's getting her affairs in order, and now she's ready to come back to Detroit because it's time for her to retire, and she wants to open up a restaurant downtown. But now she's ready to come back. So now everybody's ready to come back after everything has been situated so that they can control it, and then we want to come back. So that's what they say it's good now, it's safe now, now it's good and it's safe now. So now we want to come back to the same place that we grew up in, that you knew everything, that you know everybody in your block, everybody in your hood, you know everybody, but now it's okay for you to come back. Come on, you guys. Stop it. Stop it. It's so true. You can't sit and even deny that everything they say goes, well, to certain things. We won't follow their examples with how to create wealth. They went and bought the stock. We didn't buy the stock. They went and bought up the houses in our neighborhood. We don't buy the houses in our neighborhood. You hear me? They complain about services, and once they complain, things happen differently. We don't complain.
Always the one who makes the rules can always rig the game against you. Even when you found out, I mean, President Obama, he found that out, and they showed us that. President Obama did less executive orders than any of his predecessors, than most of his predecessors. But every time he did an executive order, they said he was trying to be king. He was trying to do something that he didn't have no business doing. And why? They had never said that about a president and executive orders before. See, they was changing the rules because the black man was in charge. And he was trying to do what he had saw his white predecessors do. And they didn't like it. So it don't matter, brother and sister. It don't matter how you learn how to, even if you had invested in the stock market, they'd have changed the rules on that. It's time for us now to realize that the only way we're going to really get justice, the only way we're really going to be free is we have to unite, and we have to make our way on some of this earth that we can call our own, like other free people are doing. We cannot continue to live.
I don't want to miss anyone. All of them are lit.
Okay,
let's go.
I can't hear him. Are the callers there?
I'm looking at trying to put us on hold with you.
Okay. You all be patient. I don't think they realize that we can't hear. I can get out of the conference room now, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me text Brother Derek and let him know we can't hear anything. You all be patient. We still trying to get this straight. I don't think they realize that we don't hear them. Yeah, now all of a sudden my phone ain't working.
I just texted.
Okay, very good. So usually they'd be putting it in the conference room, so so we can hear. I don't know what that's about.
Excuse me, son. I need you to call back into the station. Your call is sir.
Okay.
It had a life of its own that we could relate to. And great point, and then it stopped. You know what, if you can hold on 1 second, caller, I'm going to get Son of Man back on the line, okay? And I don't want to miss your call, so hold on 1 second. Let me...
Okay.
Son of Man?
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't hear what the caller said.
And do I have you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you have me.
Okay. Are you there? Good morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Okay. No.
No, I'm not.
Okay, wait, hold on. I'm going to lose you, though. Hold on. Let me see. Ooh. Third line. Let's see. Let's try number 3. This is a great morning to you, this Son of Man.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I got you. Let me lock you in. And the young lady, okay, so we're going to go to the line. Son of Man, while we were getting you back on the line, a caller called in and she said that our examples have changed. And I thought that was a great point because you had mentioned seeing Bill Cosby and I Spy. And I wasn't of age to have seen the show, but I remember the Cosby Show. And we saw the examples of the black family eating together. They were working together, working in the family together, having the experiences of raising children together. All the things that even if it had a comedic undertone to it, there were still lessons and they were still great examples for us. So again, it goes back to we have had examples. And the caller's point was that the narrative changed, the examples changed, and then we changed with them, and that didn't benefit us.
Well, the problem is that we're still letting white people own all of the medias. And, that's one of the things that got Dr. Cosby in trouble was that they saw him going back, trying to enlighten our people. And so they took the media and began lynching him. And because our media, if you remember, I'm not trying to boast or nothing, but how many other people besides myself did you see standing up defending him? None of the media took part in defending him. They took part in slandering him. And most of our people fell for it. And so this is the thing. We have to stop letting white people dictate to us what to believe. And that's what television is. It is showing you what they want you to believe. And as long as we let them portray us, then naturally we always gonna be the joker. You'll notice it was very unheard of for a black man to get a serious role as a co-star in a half-serious movie when Dr. Cosby was coming up. But that was them trying to counter what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was doing. They had to do something to try to counter, and they call it a counterintelligence program. So when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad started dignifying us, you notice the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if you ever wanted to see the story of Cinderella fulfilled, it was with the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He took Look what Malcolm used to be. Malcolm was a pimp, a hustler. And they used to call him Satan in prison. Dirty Red. And he heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and like the fairy godmother did with Cinderella, the messenger turned a mouse into a footman to go along with a coach. And the fairy godmother turned things that was nothing. He went into the black community and began putting up Muhammad's temples and started putting up supermarkets and all of this kind of thing. And he did it not with the best of us, but with some of the worst of us. And at a certain time, the one that had did all the work, Cinderella used to do all the work in the house. But the wicked stepsisters would get all the fine clothes and everything, and they would get to go to the ball, but Cinderella couldn't go. And what was it with us? We did all the work here, and we got the worst clothes, we got the worst homes, we got the worst of everything, until God showed up and began to teach us the truth. And he put our sisters in beautiful garments. Then when you look at that, that's the one thing that attracted me to the Nation of Islam, was seeing them sisters dressed so beautifully in all that white, beautiful garments, and the brothers standing up there with uniforms on that white people didn't invent. And the brothers, even if they didn't have uniforms on, they had on suits, and they was dressed nice, and they looked like something that stepped out of a magazine. And I said, man, this is it here. And so I joined. But all of that was done so that Cinderella could meet the prince. And likewise. And she went back to rags and everything. But the prince knew she was there and came after her. So this is the same. All that was done so that you could meet with the Prince of Peace. And that's me. And I don't care what you look like now. The shoes that you find in there, you remember the only thing that didn't go back was the shoes. And they fit only Cinderella. Now, if you can find some other people that fit Abraham's seed being in bondage for 400 years and being afflicted for 400 years and being mistreated and being rejected and despised, if you can find any other people other than the American so-called Negro that them shoes fit, point them out. And if you're the only one they fit, then I'm your Lord, and I'm here to save you. I'm here to give you everything that you've been begging these other people for, and they turn a deaf ear to you. I remember when I saw what happened to Gaddafi. The people that, like Minister Farrakhan and all of them, they was so foolish as to think that Gaddafi was their friend. Gaddafi wasn't our friend. Gaddafi had billions and billions of dollars. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was here asking for help for our people. And Gaddafi, out of all them billions, I remember when they loaned the messenger $3 million or $4 million. The messenger said, when you heard about the Muslim country loaning us $3 million, he said, that's like a man loaning you $3 when you needed 100. And he said, the people will regret their non-help to us. And when I saw them pulling him out of that hole and with his gold-plated gun and used his own gun to blow his brains out, I said, if he had only helped the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to help us, then his history would have been a whole different thing. But no, nobody came forth to help us. And now they all turning on each other and they all being destroyed because you saw my people over here being harmed, being enslaved, and you didn't lift a finger to help us. You came over here and set up shop in the black community while you knew it's in your book that you claim to believe in, that we don't supposed to eat swine. and you come here and you sell pig foot and everything else to my people because you know they will eat it. You know that we are sick. And instead of trying to help us.
This is what I wanted to do. So we got a couple callers, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to finish the conversation with you. If you can give us a few more minutes, I'm going to go to break, and then we're going to come back, and we can finish this conversation up before I go into the next full segment. Is that okay?
Yes,
you have
ma'am.
a few minutes for us?
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, great. Everyone, this is what we're going to do. You all heard it. That's the plan. We're going to go to break. Callers are seeing. We'll make sure you are part of the conversation with the Son of Man. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Yeah, brother, this is just, it's ridiculous what these people have done to us. See, they didn't even make up the story of Cinderella. They just put our history in a fictitious story. You see? So this is the day of judgment. And by the time it's over with, everybody that worked to keep us down, everybody that did an atom's weight of evil to us, they're going to get paid. Yes, sir. They're going to be paid in full. Now, you don't get out of this life without getting paid for what you did. You see? So, I got a lot of things I could share, but it ain't time right now. Allah's making things so clear for me now that just you'll see. All y'all that's listening, just keep listening and stay in class. As the messenger said,
Talent you want to showcase? Have your own show simulcast on WHPR TV and radio, and on Comcast cable and all of your favorite apps and devices. I really want y'all to really do band shows, cooking shows, do-it-yourself shows, everything that we're producing on the platform production. I'm going to bring it here. Packages start at just $99. Download the WHPR TV app and catch the Cheryl Underwood show wherever you are. Dual enrollment is an opportunity for high school students to be dual enrolled in both high school and college.
He came home, he talked about the class. I also felt like I was going to college with him.
Dual enrollment is an opportunity for students to jumpstart their education.
He's definitely ready and wants to start college.
It saves the student both time and money.
My advice would be enroll them immediately.
It helps. WCCCD, where learning leads to a better life.
Kenny Love and friends are throwing a back-to-school backyard party. Be there Saturday, August 26th in the Virgin Island Plaza, located at 150 Mission Street, Highland Park, Michigan, 48203. Pick up school supplies, get health tips, come stop till you drop with vendors. Join us Saturday, August 26th, 12 to 5 p.m. with live performances and fitness tapes. Come get ready for the school year with love.
WHPR Radio and Television. I'm Al your host every Saturday at 7 p.m. Tell your friends because we be dropping the old but good. I'll be looking for you. HPR 88.1 FM on your side. Leroy, Detroit Radio.
Your radio tap numbing song.
Detroit Radio.
Your radio tap numbing song.
I got a guy you can
No, I can't.
Don't mind me, I've been traveling for 1 month.
Brothers, baby.
Leroy, Detroit Radio.
One of those girl Hawaii, 88.1 FM, East Run, Detroit.
It's just gonna do a 20 ball off a black deck. I gotta get a in my black deck. My little home ran local. Can't hear that. If I ain't a real boss, what you call that? What up, though? It's Mad DJ. It's that LCC. Definitely, we are representing. We run the Detroit Radio. 5 steps to the end. For the time, finish.
feeling good, 20 ball off a blackjack. I got a text from the fucking blackjack. My little homie ran off, he can't have that. Trey is potent and delicious. Trey is not just juice. Combining ancient wisdom of the Mediterranean, the Amazon, and the Orient. Trey is sweetened naturally with the nectar from the agave cactus. Trey presents the next frontier in the pursuit of lifelong health and vitality. Trey is for living well. Trey is for you. For more information, call East Swanson Bay at 1-877-488-7537.
Join us this Sunday and every Sunday at Victory in Christ with Pastor Jamal Hudson at 2 p.m. If you're looking for a new church home or just your first start in life, please come on and join us. We're located at 27355 Ann Arbor Trail in Dearborn Heights. Come celebrate our love for Christ through praise and worship, prayer, and the Word of God. And please come as you are. So don't forget to join us this Sunday and every Sunday at Victory in Christ, located at 27355 Ann Arbor Trail in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, with your pastor Jamal Hudson at 2 p.m.
Cheryl Underwood got her own show. Now you get yours. Have a business or talent you want to showcase? Have your own show simulcast on WHPR TV and radio, and on Comcast cable and all of your favorite apps and devices.
We're going to come back quarterly, and I'm serious. We are going to produce things out of here. And I want to prove that it can be done right out of here.
Packages start at just $99. Download the WHPR TV app and catch the Cheryl Underwood show wherever you are.
If you want to make sure you say a good conversation, you got to tune in to Coffee and Conversation with you. That's me. Thursday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the only station, WHPR 33 Houston. We got the phone calls in because that was just important. So I want to give a quote. Dick Gregory said, before I go to the line, America is the only country in the world where a man can grow up in a ghetto, go to really bad schools, be forced to ride in the back of the bus, and then get paid $5,000 a week to tell people about it. I just thought that was really an interesting conversation. Dick Gregory said that before in his comedy, he was making $250 a week. So for 7 days of work, $250. But once he was deemed accessible by the white man, by being on the late night show, they then put a value in his conversation, which took him to $5,000 a week. Think about it, you guys. So, man, I'm going to go to the line. We had they're calling back, so let me make sure I get these folks in. Thank
All right.
you. Great morning to you, sir. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thanks for your patience.
As I'm listening and not only understanding, actually I agree. And what I want to say going forward is that what has changed, okay, right now, you know, it really does not matter how much money you amass, okay, because that's not what America has done. America has made market economies. Now, when I say that, money, you can have a lot of gold or whatnot, but you can't eat gold. So a market is what black people give. When you had Black Bottom, Black Bottom, or when you had there was the place out in Oklahoma, I guess, where they had a community that worked together and the money stayed there. We talk about it, but you got to get rid of this mindset of instant gratification. You understand what I'm saying when I say instant gratification? You come in here and what you see on the television, other stations, the cable, and this is instant. You can just do this right now. No, it really takes a lot of work. I don't have, if I had all the answers, whatever. But there is another mindset. One of the things that America does to your mind is that when you get money or get amass the money, you got to be the only one. You know, it just, I'm looking at it in my own family and says, no, you don't deserve that. You can't mentally, even in your own family, go back and say whatever, teach them. I'm just looking at it, whatever, all those things that you said we could have done, we should have done. Actually, I wouldn't say I didn't do the but I was involved in buying the stocks, doing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But when I got married to my family, they had no clue. They said, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" And when the reality came to me was that when you have children, your focus changes. You got to make sure that child gets educated with something. I don't know what.
Okay.
That he or she can survive in this world. Okay.
Okay.
Then they're fed. They have a place to stay.
Okay.
But they're not going to get run off from, which is easy. It's worse now because you got a city in Detroit where half the people are renters and half the people home ownership.
Okay. You know what? Stay there. Let me ask you something. And you made a comment earlier, and I want to chime in on that and thank you so much for calling because you share the truth of your life and your family, and you have a transparency. So we appreciate that. But I want to ask you, you made the statement that, it's hard for us. I don't think it's hard for us. I think that we have all of the resources. We are the mass consumers of these United States of America. We just don't work together, and we don't channel our resources, period. It's not as hard. It's not hard. And I believe that's part of that mindset. It's part of that propaganda. It's part of the conversation that they want us to believe that it's so hard. It's not hard. We have the money. We have the means. We do anything else and everything else that we want to do. Remember, that was the whole point of why people in Detroit had such a problem with Bill Cosby. Because remember, he came here and he said, you all should stop spending your money on these Jordans for these babies and focus on the education. Do you remember that? And then everyone tried to say that he was this elitist and he was this and he was that. But we chose to take that $2 and some to buy the money for the kids to put the sneakers on their feet instead of focusing on their education. I mean, the truth is we can do what we want to do. It's the mindset that we have. To the point about real estate, and then I want Son of Man to come in. To the point about real estate, we should have been owned our home 4 and 5 and 6 times over. But when we have the mindset that, you can't own, because Big Mama and them said you can't own, they said you can't buy. You can buy anything that you want. It's the same folks who can't own a home, but you can go buy a Cadillac. It's the same folks now today. If you riding down the street, you got an Escalade sitting in the driveway, and the Escalade is 4 times more expensive than the house that it's parked next to. We can do that. It's what we prioritize. And if we don't understand it, we think that it's not good. I told you all, when I had the entry into real estate, I had so many people in my family tell me what I couldn't do. And my position was, well, do you own your home? Because if you still have a mortgage on your home and I can buy a property right out, free, clear, with no mortgage, don't come talking to me. It's really that simple. You can't tell me about something you've never done. It's really that simple. But we want to believe what we think we can. But if I can, let me ask Son of Man to chime on in, because I've asked him to extend the time with us this morning.
Well, the point is that we put everything that white people put first. That's what we put first, and that's our problem. White people have always put wealth as the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do, because we've been taught by them. Over in the book of Matthew, the 6th chapter, and the 33rd verse, Jesus summed it up. He said, seek ye first the kingdom of God, meaning the knowledge and understanding that is of God. I'm not talking about seek the alphabet. That's not, yes, you get that first, but until you get the knowledge of understanding how to use the alphabet the proper way, then you're never going to be able to read English. Likewise, until you learn the wisdom that's locked up in the Holy Scriptures, you're going to always be the slave of the devil. Because the devil is inside of you. You got to cast the devil out. And the only thing powerful enough to cast out the mindset that white people put in us is the Word of God. And it's true understanding, not what these stump-knocking, lying imams and preachers and all these people out here have been teaching. But the true understanding of the Word of God will cast out the slave master and the slave mind that's in us, and will change us into a self-independent, productive people. And living proof of it is standing here.
Yes.
I'm talking to you with a free mind.
Yes.
And I know when I'm saying something that's from white people, I know where it's from.
Right.
And when I'm doing something that's characteristic of white people, I know that that's not me.
Right.
But most of us, you tell the average one, hey, bro, you need to change that. Say, man, I've been this way all my life. And that's your problem.
Right, right. So, man, if I can, thank you so much for spending the time, everyone. I need you all. I'm sending an invitation, as I know Son of Man will, to continue with the conversation with him later on. We're going to put his contact information up. So my guest is in the studio, so we're going to transfer over into a different conversation with Son of Man. It's always a pleasure. And caller, thank you so much always for the conversation. I hope that you all will take heed of the conversation that we have started today about legacy, and that Son of Man will continue it tonight if he so chooses on his show.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Everyone, don't go anywhere. I'm going to take a break.